Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's My Games Recruitment Show, where, as you can see, we're going to be talking about how to use AI to find more placeable candidates. And we have a very special guest today, which is Van Raath, who's an expert in candidate sourcing, including with AI. Now, Mike, can we just talk a little bit about why we're talking about this today?
Okay, so a couple of reasons, really, and then we'll talk about Van a little bit. But so I don't care what the market's doing. I think it's always hard to find really good candidates because if it's a buoyant market, everyone's fighting for the same number of candidates and there aren't that many of them. And if it's a flat market, a lot of really good candidates think, you know what, I'll just sit pretty. I don't think I'll move now and take a risk. I'll just stay where I am and wait for things to pick up so I've got more choice. So I don't think there's ever enough good candidates out there. I mean, there's candidates, of course, but never good ones. So your ability to find them is crucial, because the second part of this equation is that clients, you can say what you like, clients buy a shortlist. That's what they actually want. They want a shortlist of 2 or 3 people to choose from, all really good candidates that match the brief and who are serious about the role. It's that second part sometimes I think recruiters can overlook. You know, these people really want this job. They're not just doing it to get a pay rise where they are now or to play one opportunity against another. These guys want this bloody job. That's what you get paid for. And a key part of that, obviously, is sourcing. You've got to source the candidates, preferably candidates that other agencies aren't coming up with. That's where the big money is. If you can do that, then it puts you into a completely different league. You know, finding the same old and sending them in and whatever, yada, yada, yada. Finding candidates that nobody else is coming up with, man, that's where it's at. So resourcing, if you want to call it that, it has always been important. But now, of course, we have AI thrown into the mix. And it's a bit early days. No one really knows kind of how it's going to settle. As you'll see later, there's like a gazillion different products out there for you to consider. So I wanted to have this discussion. I wanted to talk to someone who not only is a candidate sourcing expert, but also has a really good knowledge, a good bead on the AI landscape as well. Bring those two things together. And so we invited Van onto the show. Now, Van is the founder and CEO of Talent Hunter. And Talent Hunter really is all about a combination of sourcing, training, techniques, tools, and so on, and AI strategy and consultancy when it comes, again, to using AI to find candidates. So why don't we bring in Van and introduce her to the viewers?
Hello, Van.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Team Ames.
Yeah, Team Ames. Yeah, the Kirsty Ames show. Why don't you come out and say it, Van? I know that's what you're thinking.
I'm the captain.
We know that. That's been proven in our conversation already.
Yeah, we met recently, didn't we, at the team thing, which I can't remember.
We did indeed.
Leamington, yeah. And that was really nice to see people. In this electronic age where all we see is this, you know, we could be one of those robots cut off just below the waist, really. But no, didn't we have breakfast together, I feel?
We did. We had breakfast together. We saw each other in 3D, which is always exciting. And it was just great to really connect with a whole lot of people that I've done so much work with in the past and see them. You know, I always get amazed. Like some people are like really tall or really short, or, you know, they're not what you're kind of expecting. You speak to these people that have these big personalities and then they're all quite short. It's quite interesting.
You were just about to say really tall, really short, really pudgy.
No judgment from that
really
from me.
Grey, actually, Mike, is what she was going to say. Really grey.
Yeah. I've had silver highlights put in recently. What do you think?
It looks amazing, Mike. It's fantastic.
Shall we crack on and talk about? Come on.
Well, as we go through, we do have Vanessa here, and as Angela says, she is sourcing an AI trainer. Everyone, she is indeed a superstar. So if you have any questions or anything that you want to kind of pull out, Vanessa's very kindly agreed that she will answer those. So please do bring them up as we go through. But before then, let's get us started. Vanessa, we put on this that it's important to have an AI game plan when you start in this kind of world. Can you talk us a little bit about kind of what that is and why it's so important?
Such a good question to start with. So bearing in mind that my client base is everywhere in the world, like I train globally, often up at stupid o'clock, Australia, or late at night, North America. And what I'm amazed at is how companies don't really have an idea of why they want AI. It's almost like they've heard this AI, it's a buzzword, and now there's a little bit of panic out there. They're like, we need AI. We don't really know why we need AI. And I think that the game plan has to be, what is it in your business? Because every business is different, let's face it. What is it that they need the AI to do? And that for me is always such a complex question. Like I often have to send people away and say, you need to think about this. Have a look at your business. Have a look at your processes. What is causing friction? What is delaying things? What's delaying your time to hire? And then let's find the correct AI tool for you in order to get a solution for that problem. And that for me is a really important thing that companies need to think about, because you're never going to learn everything about AI. Trust me, you don't want to be sitting through all of the tool demos that I'm sitting through at the moment. But until you know what is the problem, it's very difficult for anyone to help you work through that. Does that make sense?
It does. I tell you an interesting thing about tech. Actually, that was a really insightful opener there, Van. I've been in IT since 1978. So I started when I was 4. I went to university, did a degree in computer science, and no one was doing it in those days. And the IT pattern, because AI is just IT, another way of looking at IT, the AI IT pattern is exactly the same. It starts off where there's some stuff that starts to dribble in. Then there's this explosion of content and stuff that you can get access to. We're going to look at a lot of the different tools available in a minute. And then it settles down to a smaller number, and those smaller number tend to focus in certain areas. And I think what you just said was really important, because what we're looking at is the areas. So, I mean, we're focusing AI today on resourcing. I mean, that's the key area that we're looking at, but you can use it for lots of different areas. You know, everything from taking notes to interpreting conversations to helping you conduct interviews of candidates and clients. I mean, massively so. I don't know whether you saw, Van, probably not, but a few months ago we had an AI ring me up on the show. Ring me up. Had my mobile phone by the microphone and rang me up and interviewed me for a job. It was astounding, really. I was
they're brilliant, and there's a couple of those that do that now, and it's mind-blowing, and I don't see why people wouldn't do it. I mean, I actually read a survey recently that a human being would actually rather be called by an AI, someone on the phone, because I see Kirsty nodding and agreeing with me. They don't have to make small talk. They know that they're just going to get to the point, and also they can say, actually, call me at 9 o'clock tonight once everyone's asleep, and I can do this interview properly and answer all your questions. And that for me is quite mind-blowing.
Yeah. There are a lot of people who think the opposite as well, and there's quite a few studies that show that especially more senior people, oddly, they're more than happy to take a call from AI as long as they know it is. They just don't want people kind of hiding the fact that it is. But if they know it is, then they're more than happy.
If anyone's interested, by the way, we ran an AI showcase. We did 8 different products, I think, 45 minutes on each one. If anyone's interested in getting access to that, just let us know in the comments and we'll sort that out for you.
Just put a 1 in the comments if you want to know about it.
We were just blown away by some of these products out there. I mean, I thought I was fairly up there on the curve. Man, I was down there somewhere. You know, that the curve has moved on significantly. Anyway, okay, so
but that's what's going to happen, Mark. I mean, I literally, you know, when I saw you in the UK, I was in the States for a week before that, speaking at another conference. I couldn't believe what I missed in 3 weeks, because, as you say, the curve is just exponential at the moment.
Well, I think there's a danger of being overwhelmed. You know, part of the reason I wanted to do this, because in a minute we're going to bring up a snapshot of all the stuff that's out there that people should perhaps consider. You do not have the time to do that. Yeah. And the next thing you see on my Facebook feed that says, hey, AI that does this, you can't be a magpie, keep being attracted to shiny things because you'll get nothing done. You kind of have to limit it a little bit. And this idea of understanding what you want AI to do, I think you can probably micro that down a little bit and say within resourcing, right? So not the whole gamut of recruitment. Within resourcing, what do you want your AI to do for you? Because there's probably a product out there that does it. And so that's important. Yeah. So have you got any tips or hints for people before we get onto the products Have you got any tips or hints for people who are looking to actually kind of roll out or maximize the value of AI, but are overwhelmed by all this possibility there? What would you suggest that they do?
And I just want to touch on that because that actually speaks to my why. I got back from the Netherlands last year, October, and I actually realized there's a massive disconnect between the AI software providers and the people that use the tools. And there's a lot of that word that you use a lot, overwhelm. And because I had a lot of my clients contacting me, I mean, I've been on my own for 6 years now and saying, Vanessa, we know you, we trust you, this AI wave is here, we don't know where to start. That's when I decided to actually let me start chatting to some of these AI software vendors, finding out what they're doing, and then I can advise my clients the best possible way. Now that's actually flipped on its head because now I'm getting contacted by AI software vendors saying to me, Vanessa, we don't want to talk to you because we want to show you our tools so that you can mention it to your clients, which wasn't expected, but is nice. I don't have to go and do the hunting anymore. But that's why I did it, Mark, is because of this overwhelm. So for me, it was, I want to be best positioned as a trusted advisor in the recruitment space. And that's why I often talk about going through an identity crisis at the moment and try and help people as much as possible by curating a list of different processes that fall within the recruitment, should I say, structure or process that you're running, from sourcing talent to business development to recording conversations to, making recruitment marketing. My newsletter today is all about recruitment marketing, GPTs, and breaking those down so people aren't overwhelmed because they can recognize all of those different things and then matching the best AI tool to that. So I'm really hoping that it helps people, and the feedback on my list has been incredible so far.
Well, we're going to look at that list in a minute, and we're going to drill down on a few products that you think people should do. But I would say this, actually, if you do a breakdown of the recruitment process from end to end, the vast majority of it in terms of time is invested in seeking and matching. So looking on LinkedIn or the job boards or wherever you go to find candidates and try and match them up with your vacancies. And then, of course, the big thing is phone and filter. Someone has to ring them up and kind of ask if they're up for a job and describe the job, yada, 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 right? And any of the agents that sit in that space will have a massive impact on the recruitment process. If it makes it better or more efficient or faster or better quality, that's where the battle is going to be, I think. I'm not a big believer in I don't believe in automated BD anyway. I think that the days of automated BD are slowly coming to an end. And I think as well that people can often spot an AI generated piece of content. It doesn't take much, really. Just got to look behind the surface. But I think that resourcing, which is what we're talking about today, of course, is an area where I think, particularly, as Kirsty said, provided people know they're talking to an AI, that's okay for a lot of people. They're fine. And the convenience element that you pointed out earlier, call me at whatever time, silly o'clock or whatever, and to know everything that you've spoken about before in previous conversations, I think there are massive benefits there. So why don't we crack on to the next thing then, Kirsty?
I think it is time to have a look at the tools. Now, Vanessa has very, very kindly shared with us her Start Me page, which is essentially a list of all of the AI tools that you have linked. So I'm going to share that with you now. So I have, the link is here, but for those of you who can't be bothered to type out this very long link, I will make sure that it is in the description of LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple, the podcast. So I will make sure that it is available for you to look there, because now, Vanessa, you told us the reason why you have this rather than a PDF, and that is because it changes so often, doesn't it?
Jeepers, I think I'm adding to that every day at the moment. Every time I meet with a new software, a new vendor, and then I can add in something new. So if it was a PDF that you just downloaded, you'd miss out on all of the updates. So this is why I put it into a dynamic web page, which people can use. And before we start talking about tools, I actually just want to put out a disclaimer, Kirsty and Mark, is that I still think your most powerful tool in this industry going forward is going to be your personal brand. So just bear that in mind. The tools are great, but if you don't have a network, if you don't have a brand, that's really important.
We're going to look at that a little later, aren't we? We're going to end the show by talking about that, because that's quite an important thing. That's something, again, you and I share a belief in a lot. So it's going to be good.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we are focusing on today's show on this sourcing talent section of your page, I'm guessing.
We can focus on more than that if you want. So let me give you a little bit of context. What I did was I took all of the use cases that I thought a recruiter would need to use AI. Now, sourcing talent is the biggest one, and I'm going to tell you why it is, because it's quite a funny story. I got really sick and tired of a whole lot of software vendors posting on LinkedIn, we're going to replace recruiters, you don't need them, this is the new sourcing tool out there. And I jumped on it straight away and I said, great, let's chat, show me what you can do. And then I try and break the tool. And that is why there are so many there. So there are lots of tools for sourcing talent. But the one thing that I must say is what a lot of recruiters don't understand is that in order to use these tools effectively, you still have to understand things like Boolean. So you need to be able to pull keywords out of a job description. You need to have a great conversation with the hiring manager or the client to understand fully what they're looking for, to then get it right in your head, know what are the must-haves, what are the nice-to-haves, what are the non-negotiables, in order to feed that information into the AI tool. So if we want to talk about specifics that are there from a sourcing perspective, there's lots. I mean, I can't really turn around and say, pick this one over that one. The ones that I've been very impressed with are ones like People GPT. And I know that you've had David on your show previously. There's another one called Pin, which I haven't heard a lot of people talking about, but really nice group of young guys out of the States. And they've put together a really good tool, which is great for sourcing talent. So basically it takes away the first of all, the need to be paying for expensive LinkedIn recruiter licenses, which are becoming really expensive these days.
Yeah.
Goes and does the sourcing. And then what a lot of them are doing is they actually are built in those email campaign tools. So where we used to only have tools like Sourcewell and Gem that could do email outreach campaigns for recruiters, a lot of the sourcing tools are now doing that themselves. So it's really weird. We're going through a situation at the moment where the tools are just adding on extras. Like we used to be known as the go-to sourcing tool, but now we actually also have an email campaign tool. The tools that we're doing the email campaigns are now adding in the sourcing element. So I think that they're realizing that there's a need, a demand for more than just one step in that recruitment process. So have a look at those tools. I do really suggest all of them. I mean, I only have tools on that list that I've suggested and that I've tried. So Pin, People GPT, RecruitBot is another one. Hire Easy's been around for a long time. They're doing some great things. And then you can match it to other tools and other sections on that list, depending on what you are looking for.
We were pretty impressed by Scotty as well, because I think Scotty's got all sorts of it just happens to be focused on or enabled for recruitment, but we were quite impressed with that. Another more of a CRM system which had a lot of AI embedded in it was Imagine, which is Raul Ahmed's outfit, and that was really good because the thing I liked about that, you're quite right, you can't possibly do a search if you don't understand the vacancy fully. Yep. Clearly, God knows what you'll get back if you don't fully understand the vacancy. And what the machine does is it's kind of like a note taker, but it knows the data that it wants you to find out from the client or from the candidate if you're interviewing candidates. And it reminds you to ask certain things if you've forgotten it. So if you go past a question and you don't answer it, it will say, oh, ask about this. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it is all focused on getting the right data to begin with, because that's quite a crucial element, I think, Van.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't have that good basis, that good understanding, then it's very difficult to know, which tool, how does it work? And my best advice, Mike, would be, a lot of these companies are new, they, startups or scale-ups, ask him for obviously a demo, but then ask him for a free trial, try it out in your part of the world, on your roles, and just try and understand, the big picture of, which one would work best for you, because I definitely found that with these tools, they do work better in different areas. So that's a big thing on it too. And start with the baby steps. I think that that's also important, is that, when it comes to sourcing talent and, where we're looking, it still helps to have an understanding of our industry, to have that network in place, because that is going to help you exponentially.
I like that. And then, of course, the other thing to be aware of with that as well is to take note of what sometimes you already have something in another piece of tech that you might not need to buy twice. So we had someone on the show talking about tech stack and making sure that you're not duplicating and making your costs go higher
100%.
unnecessarily.
I'm actually doing that at the moment with Microsoft, because we're paying for Zoom, we're paying for Calendly, yet Microsoft has all of that in its wheelhouse, and a lot of people aren't actually maximizing what they're paying for through Microsoft. So that's an exercise I'm exploring at the moment.
Exactly. It can be really, really helpful. So
yeah,
I think for the tools, like I said, I will make sure that that link is easily findable for everybody. Oh, I just thrown my pen around. What we will do now, I think, is maybe looking at where to look to find candidates, because as we spoke about, one of the key things especially in a market like we're currently in, is finding candidates that other people can't. So LinkedIn is obviously a great place, and the job boards, whatever, but everybody else is fishing from that same pond. So can we talk a little bit about finding candidates that perhaps other people wouldn't necessarily be able to find in places other people don't think of?
Absolutely. And that is such a common problem, Kirsty, is that the same candidates are being sent to the clients, and it really is just becoming very samey. I talk about those candidates on there, just suffering from recruiter fatigue, because they're trying to deal with so many different recruiters, and it's just becomes a bit of a nightmare. So I think it comes down to how well you know your industry. And this comes down to, the real foundations of talent sourcing. If you're looking for someone in the tech space, you've got to understand and know the tech platforms, your GitHub and your Stack Overflow and your Kaggle and Dev and all of those places, because you find different types of IT folks across these platforms. And it's also understanding, how do you actually go and source on each platform? Because each platform is different. Each platform has a different nuance. Some you can X-ray into, some you can do a native search on the platform. And I think it's just about being creative and being smart. And that's why, I'm not shouting from the rooftops that, talent sources are going to be replaced anytime soon, or recruiters, because they're not. Because these tools are there to enable them. But a lot of these tools don't go and search across all of the places that I know that tech talent is actually hiding. And I think that that's something that we really need to understand. So there's a place for people that are keeping it scrappy and old school. And, I'm based in South Africa, and South Africans and Africans can't afford a lot of expensive tools, but they're some of the best talent sources I know, because they have to be scrappy, and they have to know, actually, how do I source without these funny tools, and how do I find the right people? So, yeah, it's about hitting up those, conference lists. Who's speaking? Are you connected with them? Are you analyzing their followers? Are you following hashtags? There is just so much that we can do from a sourcing perspective.
Now, Mike, I know that you've been around recruitment for a long time. Let's just say I'm putting that nicely. Before a lot of this tech even existed, before fax existed, I think. So can you talk a little bit about how did you find people before the wonderful world that Vanessa lives in, full of tech and shiny?
The Rolodex.
Rolodex. I still have my Rolodex. I'm going to write a LinkedIn post. I've still got it, actually.
You must.
That was my CRM system.
Please do.
I still have that, actually. But interesting. I just listened to what you said there, Van, and I think there's going to be I'll step back just slightly for a second, then come back to answer that question, because to put a context on it. I think you're right. I don't think recruiters will be replaced by AI. I think what AI will do in stage one is amplify the abilities of recruiters. So they'll be able to do more with less, which doesn't give you much of an advantage, because if everybody does it, if you don't do it, you're going to get left behind. This isn't about moving forward and suddenly owning the space. It's about keeping up, really. And I think that's important for everybody out there who's a recruiter. You have to keep up, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. But it's an accelerator or an amplifier of what you're doing. I do think, though, a number of these AI providers, and I could name names, but I won't, are targeting end users with the products a lot. And I think if you combine that with what they now call fractional TAs, where much smaller companies can have a TA for 2-3 days a month, combined with all of these tools to produce medium lists of people that on paper look okay, or maybe even the AIs have rung them up and said, look, this is the job, are you interested? So the TAs are operating on a much smaller group of targets to get that down to a short list for the clients. I think that's the biggest threat really to our industry. So to combat that, you have to be very rich on what you offer. You have to offer an outstanding service. The days of being able to get by with average, which you could do from 2010 to 2023, the golden age of recruitment, are gone. You've got to be out there, and that's what this tech will help you do. It doesn't do it for you. I wish it did, but that's what it'll help you do. Now, in terms of going backwards to come forwards, yeah, well, we didn't have, like South Africa, as you said, there was no internet, there was no LinkedIn, there was no email, there was no mobile phones, nothing, and the way in which we were successful, my business was the 25th fastest growing UK private business, not just recruitment, across the whole board. And we did that because we micro-niched. So we didn't try and meet all the vacancies out there, we just micro-niched. And then we developed networks of candidates within that space, some ready to move, some not ready to move. That's the way in which we did it. Plus, and this is an important thing as well, we put a shed load of effort into what was called then the register, is now called the ATS, or the database. The companies were valued on the size and integrity of their register, right? That was a massive valuation, which disappeared when LinkedIn came along. I think that's coming back now. I think you have to really value your database and the quality of the data that's on it. And you can only do that if you're narrow. You cannot do it if you're trying to do
100%.
So, and I think in sourcing, even if you don't want to spend a lot of money on products, so you're just overwhelmed with it, if you narrow down the kind of people you need to search to and start to kind of form relationships in there, the biggest source of candidates for us and clients were the candidates that had such an exceptional service from us that they were happy to introduce us to someone else. I remember once we took a whole team from British Coal. We recruited one person, and in the end, we took about 10 people. A whole team came to us one at a time, right? No internet, no LinkedIn, no job boards, nothing. It was just
which is why you don't hear about British Coal anymore, because that business was decimated.
That plus the global warming thing,
Yeah. I mean, who's to say what came first? I mean, global warming or Mark's team, I don't know.
Maybe it's Mike's fault. Maybe it's Mike's fault. That's what we're saying.
Could be. Yeah.
What do you think about that, Vanessa? Because obviously I know it ties in kind of what you were saying at the beginning. How do you feel about what Mike said?
And I completely agree. And I think that is the basis and the foundation of recruitment, is that, I mean, I really chuckle when I meet with companies and they say, you know what, Vanessa, we don't know what's wrong. We've got a database of 5,000 people or 10,000 people or whatever it might be. And I always have to chuckle, because I'm like, when was the last time you connected with those people? Are they still alive? Did they make it through COVID? Is it a graveyard? Like what is going on? I would rather have an active network that I'm feeding as frequently as possible as I can on LinkedIn, because even though that's maybe not something that can be monetized and be sold, it helps me running my business be a lot more successful, in the fact that in 6 years I've never had to do BD or go looking for work. It's always been incoming because of my brand. And I think that that's really important. And I think if more recruiters actually worked and thought about their brand a little bit more, there wouldn't be that need for that database, unless you're keeping that database updated, you're in regular contact with them, you're getting people to update their jobs, they've signed up for newsletters, whatever it is, then it's a valuable commodity. But without that, it's not.
It's interesting you say that. That's an area where I think AI will start to grow in prominence, because what AI can do is what humans can do, but it's not practical. AI can ring everybody up every 3 months and just say,
exactly, and it should.
Yeah.
And data enrichment tools, or what a lot of companies are now referring to this as almost like a new industry coming out, sales intelligence. So understanding who's in your database. Mark, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's an area which you don't often hear spoken about. You talk about resourcing in terms of, well, we got a need, can I find a candidate now to fill the vacancy, which obviously is a valid activity, of course. But this idea of going back to say, no, I'm going to value my database, I'm going to keep it integral, i.e. the data on it accurate and up to date. But I can't do that in person. I have to automate elements of that. And email is gradually dying on its arse, right? Because the ESP...
Thank God.
Thank God, yeah. The ESPs are being more aggressive. It's now no longer looking for keywords. The AIs are reading the emails and deciding whether you need to get that email or not. So it's not even keywords now where you could avoid using certain words. Your email will get through. By the way, if anyone's interested, this week in our newsletter, we're interviewing an email expert who's talking about the sort of things you need to do in order to get your email delivered. It's fascinating stuff, actually. It blew me away. So you can get that on my newsletter. If you go to Mike Ames, my profile, you can look at the newsletter and get that. But the point is, the idea that you can have outreach, which is other than just email outreach to keep things up to date, is an area where I think not a lot of people will focus on. Not a lot of agencies will do that because they can't be asked. They'll be looking to fulfill vacancies. And I think there's an area there for people to begin to carve out some difference, because you've got to be different in the new world, else you're not going to survive.
100%.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
No, we do have to move on. I just want to say Emma agrees with both of you. She said delivering that outstanding service and demonstrating to talent what you do will mean you can attract top talent that you can nurture, so you have to do less chasing.
Oh,
And this
amen.
sort of
Well done,
builds
Emma.
on what I know you believe, Van, which is around building that brand. You mentioned it right at the beginning. And
Yeah.
I want to talk about this now. Can you first kind of explain what you mean by building your brand, and then is this something that AI can help us with?
100%. Okay. So I think one of the best user cases for AI, which everyone can start literally this afternoon, is getting better at your prompting and getting better results. So two things there. Everyone seems to be using OpenAI ChatGPT at the moment. Everyone I speak to, oh yes, we're using it. Yet we're seeing our inboxes still flooded with, AI-generated content. As you can run it through any AI checker tool or Zero GPT or whatever, you can see it's AI-generated. Same goes for LinkedIn posts. But if you were to work a little bit harder, understand the GPTs, and build your own GPT, you can actually do the same thing but give it your voice. So it's a princely sum of $20 to pay for an OpenAI license, which allows you to build your own GPT, which then can help you to create a lot more content, which once you have the content, it's easier to write a blog. It's easier to put out a podcast. It's easier to do more frequent LinkedIn posts. It's easier to write a better quality.
Can I stop you right there and ask a question? Are you saying then, are you suggesting that the AI doesn't write the content? What the AI does the research and gathers the information for you then to write something which is original and human. Is that what you're saying, or have I got that skewed?
It is what I'm saying, but you have to train it in order to be able to do so. Because if you just use the generic results that come out, everyone's going to read it and say, that's AI generated.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, and that's why I said to you, is please give me the transcript from the show. So I'll give you an example. I could take the transcript from the show and I could say, I spoke about 3 different topics in my conversation with Mark and Kirsty. I would like to write a newsletter based on what I said. Here is everything that I said. Write it in my tone. So it's my ideas. I've already spent 45 minutes chatting to you guys on this webinar and podcast, which has been absolutely delightful, may I add. But why can't I use that content further? You know, why can't I then say, let's get a wider audience. Let's let this reach more people. I know that I added a lot of knowledge bombs, and it's just being smarter about the way you are reusing content. But you can only do that, I believe, if you've trained your GPT to actually sound like you and to understand what you're trying to achieve, or else you waste so much time after you've generated something making it sound like you.
Can I just say, right, we didn't rehearse this, I promise. The newsletter that we just produced on email, I interviewed the expert, took the transcript. Peter, who's our resident AI expert who loves it, he's all about it. I think he spends too much time on it, but hey-ho. He's trained a GPT to write like me, right? To write in my style. He's not quite got it right yet. He produced, I think we asked for a 2,000-word newsletter, which it produced. It then took me about 15 minutes to go through and just spot things that weren't quite me.
A lot quicker than if you'd used a general GPT.
I could not write a 2,000-word newsletter in 15 minutes, and I couldn't just take something Chat had produced, or we use Copilot. Copilot had produced and done that. It's because he'd written this chat. Now, if you're interested in doing that, and that sounds a bit techie, I'm telling you, YouTube is awash with videos that will show you how to do that. It's dead simple. You've got to pay for them.
Like, but as somebody who is, I'm the most tech phobic in the family. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
The tech makes my brain go fizzy, and she just gets cross. So if I'm watching this, and there are people like me thinking, training an AI, does that mean I have to code things? Am I supposed to be learning like C#, like JavaScript? Like, how? I know you don't have time to go into detail with it, Van, but can you just give an idea of what is the process of that?
Okay, it's so super easy. And I'm just going to put it out there that, I barely passed school because I couldn't speak Afrikaans. So I'm not a super brain. I don't class myself as being super intelligent. I do have chronic ADHD, and that helps me to be curious and teach me how to do things quite quickly. So on that note, how do you do it? No, you don't need to be able to code. You basically need to put your credit card details into OpenAI and pay for the first tier, which is only $20 a month. And then you can build your own GPT by speaking to it. So you can have a conversation. I have got several GPTs. I've got one that I can run a blog through, and it sets it up perfectly for SEO. So it doesn't change what I've said in my blog, but it says, this is your focus keyword, these are your headings, this is your metadata, etc., because I could do all of that, but it's admin, and admin isn't my strong point. So it all depends on what you want to do. You can make unlimited GPTs. I have another one for recruitment marketing, which you'll see I wrote about in my newsletter today. There's other ones that is just called Van's Voice because it sounds like me. So you can literally like spring up a GPT 10, 15 minutes, easy.
And the internet, I have to stress that the YouTube, 2 hours on a YouTube channel, honestly, you'll be as good as you need to be. I promise. It's not that difficult.
I have a 12-minute video on my YouTube channel because I found that there was a lot of 2-hour ones of mansplaining going on, just to be honest.
Can we put that link can we put that link in the chat?
Sure.
Get that link from Van.
Let me go and find it for you quickly.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we'll do. Don't worry, Van. We'll stick it in the description for this video so people can pick it up down there.
Do you know what?
If you're registered, if you're registered for this, I'll make sure it goes in the email that you get as well.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's actually on my AI tried and tested tools. There's actually a link under custom GPTs.
Oh, I see it. I'll definitely put that in anyway, but I see where it is. Thank you very much. And Emma here has said that she uses Claude AI, and she has a different one
brilliant. I love Claude.
Her clients. It's really easy to train. It's just like talking to a human or giving a brief to a human.
Excellent. That reminds me of a very famous book. It was called, did I get this right? Lion Taming by Claude Bottom.
Don't react. You can't
encourage jokes.
Cannot encourage this kind of
behavior. Dad jokes. 38 minutes in.
Oh yeah, you can edit that out, Curse. It'll be fine.
I can't. It's in the middle. It's stuck there now forever. Okay, so I just want to. Now I kind of understand what I'm supposed to do. So, in order to create my own voice and make sure that it's consistent and make it so that I'm regularly posting, regularly putting myself out there, I can train a AI ChatGPT for $20 a month to come in to learn how I speak, the way I the things I say, put things like transcripts from calls that I've had, or if I'm on webinars, or if I'm on team meetings or training sessions or anything like that, and get it to kind of is it called syndication? Syndicate your content so that you can have
when you use the same piece of content in different channels.
So my question is, Vanessa, how just to tie it kind of back to today's show, can you kind of make it a little clearer how that brings me in potential new candidates that the competition perhaps wouldn't be?
So I think what us recruiters don't realize is how long we spend typing emails to candidates that are really repetitive, okay? How long we spend on the phone to candidates, how long we maybe spend on video calls with candidates, where it's very repetitive. So where a lot of recruiters I see, they're on their desk, they've just had a fantastic candidate briefing for an interview they've got coming up. They've got to do another 4 or 5, but instead of just jumping into that conversation and letting an AI tool summarize what they've said so that they can do an email follow-up, they say to the candidates, I'm going to send you an email exactly of what I've said, just so that you've got it as a record. And then they sit and type out 5 different emails of what they've said in the briefing. For me, it's just about smarter, about, you say something once, how can you repurpose, what you're doing? So I always am saying to people, we always on video calls, record your clients giving you the brief on the role, because that can also be shared with candidates. Record your candidates that are actually answering maybe a set few questions and share it with the hiring managers. Just don't let that go to waste. Whatever you're doing can be repurposed. Hence my blog. I've written a blog for ages, but now I can repurpose that into a newsletter very, very quickly and easily. It's really about being smarter and standing out. And that's kind of the crux of what we started talking about in this discussion. It's about your brand. So you have the content, you speak it frequently. Whatever you're saying could actually be turned into your LinkedIn post. Yet every recruiter I speak to sits back and says, I don't know what to post. I really don't know what to share with people. I've got no value to add. Yet they're dropping so much truth all the time. They're just not thinking about how can we repurpose this elsewhere.
You can, things like Copilot we use, which is part of
absolutely. Copilot's great.
360. You can say to Copilot, okay, of emails I've been sending to candidates recently over the last 2 weeks, what's the thing that I've spoken most about? And Copilot will tell you, just says, oh, well, look, this is the sort of stuff that you've been talking about. And increasingly, of course, as we record Teams calls, and in certain cases, telephone calls as well, you can do the same calls. It's amazing. But I think if I were just to summarize this bit, because I know we've got to crack on now because she's doing that thing where she's nodding there. So very quickly, what a GPT really is a program that takes fuzzy data. So it's not something you've had to code up. You set the rules, you give it some data, that can be some transcripts or whatever you've got really, and ask it to do certain things in English, and it will do that for you. And if you don't like it, you can adjust it and ask it again until you get it the way you kind of want it. It's low, they call it low, well, it's not even low code, but it's just not, you don't have to do any coding at all. No code, yeah, man. Yeah. So it is something that all those techie cats out there thinking, oh no, this is going to take my livelihood away. Yep. It most certainly is, because normal people can ask questions and keep going back. It's a refinement process. Didn't quite give me 100%. What I want. Go back and I'll do it again. When I was in IT, it was called iteration or iterative, until eventually you get something, you think, got it, and then it's good. It's that program sits there and you can activate it whenever you like. And if you want, you can make it so that everyone can see it, or you can just keep it for yourself. It's very clever. Okay, Kirsty, back to you. Sorry to,
Okay, no, it's okay. We unfortunately are coming towards the end of the show. So in a second, Van, I'm going to come to you and ask for your top tip. But before then, Mike, why don't we talk about our next show, which is about client care?
Yeah, now, we were talking off air before I came on the show, and I said certain topics just don't get the audience in. And yet, they are so important. Client care is one of them. Let me tell you what client care isn't. It isn't account management. No. Ixnay on the account management, right? That's a part of it, but it's got 3 main components. And if you want to be successful in the new world, then one of the things that will protect you, you've got the tech and all that fancy stuff that anyone can use. One of the things that will protect you is the strength of relationships. Client care is about building and monetizing relationships. That's what it does. Very few recruiters are any good at it. Half of them aren't really that good at account management, let alone client care. It is a game changer if you get it right. So in June, before we finish for the summer, we're going to do 2 episodes. The first one is on client care. The second is on a thing called VOTC, which is part of client care. So important. We spun it out into a separate episode. So check this out next time. This is about maximizing your revenues. Well worth a watch.
Yeah. Why spend all that time and energy on getting new clients when you can keep the ones that you've got and add to them?
Amen.
Which is what we like. Okay, so Van, as we were talking about before, and sort of how you started the show, there's a nice kind of symmetry to this. When we asked for your top tip, you said that the key thing is to understand the problem.
Exactly. So when it comes to AI and sourcing, there's a lot of different elements there. Is it actually finding the candidates? Is it getting them to respond to your cold email outreach? Is it the fact that the hiring manager isn't paying enough? There's so many different aspects to be really good at sourcing. You know, is your brand not strong enough that people aren't responding to you? You don't have a network, you've just started a new job, so many things. When you understand the problem, then I encourage you to find the matching AI tool that will be the solution for you. So a lot of people just like, panic AI, let me just try everything at once, just must get started. And it actually doesn't work. It's very overwhelming. It's very confusing. So try and pinpoint your problem. And I'm actually doing a lot of consultation with people around this because it's actually more difficult than what you think. Pinpoint the problem, and then we can match it to the best solution.
And on that, do you recommend kind of doing it one problem at a time? One problem, getting the AI to fix it, embed it, then kind of do a secondary review. Right now, what's the problem? Or are you like perhaps Mike might be, which is all the AI all at once? Let's get it all.
All the tools.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I think that people need to understand that before you can be like an AI strategist or consultant, it comes down to a discussion. Because what comes out of that discussion is vital to see, actually, is it one tool? Is it one tool that can do 3 things? Is it 3 tools that are going to do 20 things? We've got to find out that problem first and then take it from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Now, Van, you've offered a lot of value today, but if somebody has any questions or, wants to learn any more about you and what you do, is the best thing for them to do to find you on LinkedIn?
Yep, I'm always on LinkedIn. They can email me. They can visit my website, vanessaraath.com. Whatever. I'm not difficult to find. Whatever they're comfortable with, hit me up. Let's chat.
Perfect.
And may I just say a big thank you to both of you for your time today. It's been great. I really enjoyed it. It's been a good laugh.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And that is Vanessa.
Absolutely.
Raath.
And mostly you, Kirsty. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That's
the
Vanessa
Kirsty
Raath.
Show. Yeah.
Okay, right. So as I said, unfortunately, we are at the end of the show now. So first of all, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's watched and all those who've commented. It really makes it fun for us. So thank you very much. Of course, a huge thank you to Van. You've been so valuable. You've added a lot of knowledge. And that website that you've given us with all those names on is like gold dust. So thank you so much for attending us today.
Excellent. Thank you. See you soon.
I knew this would be a good show because we just didn't talk about the tech. I think tech on its own is pretty boring. I think it was set in a wider context and we got some real stuff going on. Really appreciated you coming on the show and spending some time with us. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
All right. And of course, thank you to Mike just for being here because he's about to go on his hollybobs.
Yay! Enjoy your hollybobs.
Gonna be. I can't wait. I'm nearly there.
Where
Wait
a
minute. Wait a minute. I'm going to Lanzarote. Yeah. Lanzarote with the fam. So some of the fam anyway. Not Kirsty. She's in John going away.
I'm holding the fort down here, but
someone has to, Kirsty.
Well, it's got to be me as well. I'm the only one with any sense. So thank you so much for attending us today, guys, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys.